right, guys, welcome back to Kingdom Mindset Podcast.
Let's go.
Episode 4.
Very happy.
Merry Christmas. Today we have on the podcast, welcome back Tony, second time on the show. Tony, and we have the Rios brothers, Michael and Edgar Rios. We have Josh Lopez, and of course myself, Josiah Schubring. If you give Josh, his voice is a little bit hoarse from being sick, so Josh is here to look good and chime in.
For the aesthetic.
Yeah, for when he's, for good looks. So today we had a conversation with Tony this past week, and a little while ago he had a trip to Lebanon. His family lives in Lebanon, and he went there for a couple weddings, right, Tony?
Yeah.
And his experiences with food over there, which is quite different from America. Of course, we know America has tons of garbage, and the food over here, and not just that, of course, the water, our simple drinking water here, even purified, can affect us. But Tony wants to share his his little trip that he went to regarding food and how that affected him on a major level, and being sick for weeks. And you're still sick from it? I mean, once in a while?
Once in a while, food still doesn't sit well with me. So I'm kind of on that journey.
Really?
You know?
Okay. Well, why don't you share a little bit with that, Tony, man? We'd like to hear it.
Talk to us about the labneh.
Lebanese is actually a food in Lebanon. It's really good.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, so one of the things I actually wanted to talk about is actually the culture, which is really funny because on the first or second day, my uncle came up to me and he was like, "Do you want to eat for the next 3 days?" I'm like, "Of course I want to eat." He's like, "Okay, well, you and the rest of the guys are going to come with us and we're going to go hunting." So on day one, we went hunting. Awesome. We hunted and
wait. Have you ever been hunting before?
It was really my first true experience. The first time we went, we didn't really see nothing, but they went again and they actually caught a big boar, and that boar fed 3 families for 3 days, which is just
awesome.
Wild.
3 families?
3 families for 3 days. The way that it kind of works is it was a big boy, awesome. But yeah, that's the interesting thing is we kind of take that for granted. We can just go to the store and just grab whatever we want at any point. But over there's certain times where no, the only way that we're going to eat is if we literally go out and hunt, you know? But that's normal. That's normal for them.
And your family knows how to process the animal.
Yeah, they were skinning it and everything. And it's kind of funny. There's a photo, maybe I'll put up, I'll have to censor it because it's obviously a little bloody, but I just came back from kind of a nice restaurant, and I'm wearing this nicer button-up shirt, and then my uncle is next to me, or cousin, he's next to me, skinning this boar and all bloody, and I'm just cheesing next to him and stuff. So
Sunday's best.
Yeah, for real.
Wow.
So, but man, it's so interesting because the food there, number one, obviously I'm biased, but it tastes amazing. Absolutely, it's fresh, right off the farm. You know, we were at a restaurant one time and we ordered something and the guy literally went to a garden right next to us and just picked it and then gave it to us. It was just
exactly how it should be.
Yeah. Yes, it was just literally right there. And I'm like, oh, okay. And it's going to be right there. There's a tomato we ordered with our salad or whatever. And I was like, oh, here you go.
There's restaurants, and from being a former chef, there's restaurants even in Chicago, they boast and pride themselves on farm to table. Yeah. That is the table at the farm. That is literally, and that's how it should be, in my opinion. If we can get back to that,
Yeah.
Of course.
Well, it was nice. I mean, it was really nice to experience that. And literally it's such a pure thing too. Just it's something that God created. And we're able to enjoy it. I was able to enjoy that in a clear way. But one thing about it though is obviously, when you're traveling, you'll get traveling sickness from different foods. It's processed completely differently. It's raw, straight from the ground. They don't spray it with nothing. They just plant it, whatever it looks like. Oh, here you go. Here's your food. You know? And because of that, I got a little bit sick, my dad and I. And real quick story, just real quick. I got a little sick and, the hospitals and stuff like that, it's different there. It's basically a third world country, So we just, in my eyes, from my perspective, we just called a random guy from the village. He met us at our house, and he barely spoke English. He's trying to ask me what's happening. I can't speak Arabic. So I'm like, stomach hurt, like just over and over again,
pointing to your stomach.
just like all that, and just some random guy. He's got like a syringe. He's got like stuff. He's like
about to pull a bullet out of your stomach. There's a lot of battles and wars going on in Lebanon these days. So.
My cousin's over there like, you're a trad. Like, come on, you're a trad.
Wow.
It was so funny. But anyway, I got sick. But then as soon as I recovered from that, I literally felt the best I've ever felt in my life when it comes to food. Like, I kid you not, not in like, obviously I'm biased, but I personally actually struggle with something called IBS. So that's like, it just affects my stomach on certain foods like seed oils, stuff like that. Like, I have to just watch what I do. But ever since this trip to Lebanon, it's like I didn't have any effects at all. Like, no effects. And it was weird. I would eat something expecting to feel like just a little uneasy and just be completely fine. And that's not normal for me. Right. So you can only imagine coming back to the US. Mm-hmm. Like, I got picked up by a few friends. They were starving. They're like, hey, let's just go to Jersey Mike's. I'm like, okay, yeah, sandwich shop. Couldn't be that bad. No, like that killed me, bro. That killed me. And I was out. And even to this day, I'm still being affected by certain foods. And I have to really limit myself. Like, it's really affected my body. Yeah. Just from like, I had a whole reset, So that's my experience with Lebanon and just the food there. It's a completely different world. And again, I'm biased, but to me, it's like how you should eat.
Tony, I just want to back up a second. When you did get sick, so you said that you ate something and it was from the garden.
Well, yeah. I mean, like they would tell you, be careful what you drink. Like, don't drink too much water or if you do, like, it's got to be bottled because of the filtration system and stuff there. Like, I get it. Right. But like, also they would say like, the fruits, like, don't eat a lot of fruit and also the fruits there, they're like minuscule, by the way. Really? Like the fruits, the vegetables. And they would always make fun of me of like, oh, you're still hungry? You're used to the American cucumber? Like, Yeah. So, they would always like kind of warn you with what you eat, what you drink coming from America, because it's completely different, so.
Well, I wonder if they use, they got to be using like heirloom seeds, none of it's been genetically modified,
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not though. I mean, at least what's wild to me is this is a foreign concept here, but they literally live off the land. Like, there's stores and stuff. They'll go to the stores, but that food is like by your neighbor, that's your neighbor, like went and hunted and got that meat for you. Right. Like someone that you know. Wow. So it's almost like a contribution that everyone is doing. The local store is just like everyone else's in the neighborhood contributing to it.
You said that I had to watch out what I eat as far as vegetables or fruits or whatnot. Mm-hmm. Why do you have to watch out for that if it's like organic or like from the ground?
Because my body is used to like the sprayed food here. Just to be real with you, like it's the food, the vegetables, the fruits. Like, there's videos of it. I actually saw a video the other day. I think you posted it, Josiah. Like, they are just spraying this like everywhere. But over there, they're not doing a single thing. Like, it's just water.
Dude, we got airplanes of chemicals being dropped on farm fields. Yeah. We got machines that go down and just sit there and just douse these things. Yeah. Douse these fields, in that spray. Yeah, it's absolutely insane. So your body got used to the chemical. Mm-hmm. And for here, because you're consuming that, right? Now, even organic food is also sprayed, just sprayed less.
Yeah, which is
wild. So, and what you do see in different countries now, yours is to like a major degree, but like you go to Italy, the food's still sprayed to try to keep pests, away, but they're not allowed certain chemicals that the U.S. actually allows that they're spraying. So for whatever reason, and call it the FDA or whoever is allowing these chemicals, and this is our boy right here is trying to break that and trying to really get on the government that's allowing these, and then getting on these companies that are allowing this too. So they seem even cancer rates have picked up, diabetes has picked up, and they think a lot of that has to do not just with the sugar intake, but what we're doing to even to the sugar and highly processed foods, but also what they're spraying it with as well. So, dude, you just can't pick up anything these days, and I know for me, I've clinged on to a lot of what the Amish do. The Amish have rules in their villages, in their religion, where they don't touch that kind of stuff, and they try to keep it, as clear as. I know some of the eggs that I get from the Amish store. Now it'll say either soy free or not use hormones or steroids or anything like that with them, or antibiotics. But. Back to my previous conversation. Great question, Josh. When you guys, I'm not sure how Puerto Rico does it or what if you guys experience anything in Puerto Rico.
We've been to Puerto Rico
and Ecuador
and Guatemala.
Okay,
and
we've got a good story in Ecuador.
We do, and pretty good. So what we experienced in all of them, except for Puerto Rico, I would say they got a lot of a lot of similar stuff that's happening in America is happening there. So you don't really get too many of the dietary issues or any of the irritable bowel syndrome. None of that. Real quick, though, I will say, I know it's just like a phrase, but the idea behind things get worse before they get better is applicable even now. And I think even we kind of see that with what happened to him out there in Lebanon. Yeah. So I recently, another thing made me think of, I recently just got a car, and it's not like it's a normal car. It's a little bit sportier from what I've had before. So before, you just throw in the regular gas, and I read on the paper on the Carfax, like, oh wow, you get 24 miles to the gallon, thinking like something decent. So I'm putting in like regular gas, the cheapest one, and I'm not getting those miles. And I'm driving home from work. It's only 9 miles, but I swear I'm seeing the things start ticking down. I tried putting in the best gas, the 92, put that in, and I feel like I'm getting my 24 miles per gallon. So I kind of think of like, the body in the same way as a car, right? You want your body to go the distance. You want to push it to the max capability and
great analogy, dude.
Get the most out of yourself
to perform at the optimal level.
Yeah. Right. But how are you going to do that if you're putting cheap fuel, what your body runs on, and you're giving it the bad stuff, the transition, seeing how it took, the transition period from bad to good even takes a little bit as well. You got to do some detox. There is going to be that middle ground of detox, and you got to push through it and fight through that. But it just made me think of that. Back on your question though, in regards to what happened to us out there and the diet. So yes, similar to you, we're just used to American food and everything that's going on and inside what they're growing our food with. We'll first maybe talk about the Guatemala trip, because that was even crazy. Coming back from there, I think my stomach was rocked for maybe a month plus.
Dude,
really?
The whole so it was longer than a week, right? How long were we out there?
10 days.
10 days. And I'll tell you, the first 5 days, it was like water coming out of me. It was crazy. Without trying to be super, descriptive. Yeah. It was rough. Well, the transition period there was pretty. Go ahead, dude. You can say your side.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. It was just tough. I think, if from my perspective, I would say like just geographically, like the food and everything there from like a bacterial level, it's like we were being exposed to new foods, new bacteria that was like from the food and just from the source. And honestly, not to sound too scientific, but like the bacteria we have in our guts has been affected because of the American diet, so like 100%. It took a lot of time for us to like adjusting when we were getting there and then adjusting when we were coming back. There's one story in Ecuador which I thought was really funny. I thought about it when Tony was talking about his hunting experience, and I just thought like, you're so brave for trying, that wild game, because we were in Ecuador visiting family in a village, and our cousin wanted to sacrifice one of their roosters or chicken. Not sacrifice. No. But wanted to prepare
give it up.
dinner for us. We have family.
Sacrifice.
we have family that comes from an agricultural background, and we came to visit, and so it was such a significant moment that they wanted to prepare a meal, but we were not having that.
Yeah, well,
respectfully,
where that family was in Ecuador was literally in the mountain, and their house. Oh man, it was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It was super crazy. But long story short, these people truly did live off the land, similar to what you're talking about. Yeah. We come there just like most people. When you come from America and you visit family that's less fortunate, you usually bring in stuff. So we brought a flat screen TV, not too big.
Yeah.
But they were excited about the gift and whoa, the TV that these people came. Dude, I'm telling you, we pulled up and there was roosters running around.
We're giving you our best chicken.
Yeah. Oh, dude. One of the ladies.
I love it, man. Take all my TVs. I don't.
Yeah. No, true. No, so while we're talking.
I love every bit of this, dude. So I'm all over it. That's like a dream of mine.
This was new to us. And it's, while we're talking to the other, some family, one of the ladies, she's chasing down one of the chickens, and in the background we're talking like this,
Rocky.
But looking behind,
we're all giving each other the look,
looking through the group, what is she doing? We're only here for a moment, you want to come talk or whatever. She finally catches the chicken and by the feet, and she pulls out a bag and she's doing one of these, and she's like, yeah, I'll either take it out now if you guys want to stick around and eat, or we could bag it and you guys just take it like this, a live chicken, throw it in the bag, just take it off wherever you guys can go. Gosh. Yeah, anyways.
It's like that over there though.
Yeah, the gifts for a gift.
It's funny to me because you think about, your family's watching this, right? Or people from different cultures watching this, and it's a super normal, and it used to be a normal thing. Yeah. Right. And because, metropolis and these cities have gotten and we've sped up, technology has gotten bigger. Yeah. People would say maybe better, where you actually start seeing people retracting and wanting to go back to the old world because of how much damage we've done with technology and all the lab research and all the science that they've come up with. Now you're starting to slowly see people retract and be like, no, I actually want to get away from the city. And I'll speak for myself. I'm like, dude, I would love it to be in the middle of nowhere. I do have the benefits of having a podcast and a phone, but listen, when it comes down to it, dude, I'd be happy to shut myself off from the world, and live off the land and hunt and eat awesome food and feel really good, And that to me, especially going through the journey that I went through with, with drugs and alcohol too, and then feeling how much garbage and how much destruction I did with my body, to now I'm on the whole opposite end of looking at that and being like, no, I want to behave the best I can, but treat my body and steward my body to the very best that I can. And that obviously includes nutrition as well. So I envy those people that have nothing but chickens in their backyard,
Well, it's so interesting though, too, because if you look at, at least for my family, they would do anything to be in the United States. Mm-hmm. They would do anything to be here. And even not to get political, and I'm not even going to really dive into that at all, but they were begging me to go out and vote. They're like, I don't care who you vote for. Go out and vote. You have the privilege to do that.
Oh, huge.
And so, that's a whole thing too. But so I really want to kind of harp on that because it's great to experience those things where you are literally living off the land. There's a beauty, a pure thing about that. But at the same time, we're absolutely privileged as well. And we can really take a lot of these things for granted. And
we do.
And we do. Yeah. I do all the time,
Right.
So there's there's got to be a balance, It's just a matter of figuring out what that balance is.
Yeah. I think it is going on trips like that, experiencing how the rest of the world does things is good. For the heart, and also just to come back. When you come back home, you're more appreciative. It is difficult to live that way, and also to get accustomed to that is time consuming. It's preparation and preparing your food in that sense. I'm pretty sure when you came back, seeing how all of that was, right? So you guys hunted 2 days for 3 days worth of food, but here we go. Right. We go to the store 20 minutes for, our life is so much go, and we're trying to figure out what is the fastest way to get this done or do this.
Yeah, and it's similar to here as well, like it just in a completely different style of degree, because for them, they do have the ability to go out and like there's restaurants and stuff. You can do that.
Yeah.
And like you can go out and eat, but like the way the economy is, like it's just not self-sustaining to do that. Like it's better to live off the land. You can save more. You're able to live life how you comfortably, and doing it that way rather than going out to eat. But we have the privilege of like, oh, we can just go to McDonald's and whatever, do this. I
wondered if you felt like this, like when we went to Ecuador and Guatemala, there was restaurants, all that stuff, but the people that lived there didn't go there. It almost felt like that was there literally for tourists and visitors.
Yeah, a lot of these countries live off of the tourists. Yeah. They really do. I mean, like, unfortunately, Lebanon, it used to be called the Pearl of the Middle East. A lot of conflict has gone down there.
A lot of war, right?
A lot of war. Yeah. They've just been in the middle. I mean, the Lebanese people, they don't want to be a part of anything.
Well, you have Armenian genocide too. Yeah. And didn't they retreated to Lebanon itself too, just to keep themselves safe. I had Armenian friends. Yeah. And they talked about it all the time, man. And
Lebanon has always been the middle ground. I mean, the Syrian conflict, stuff with Hezbollah, and stuff with Israel, stuff with everything. Like the Lebanese people themselves, they're like, look, we just want to live in our land. We don't care about anything else going on.
Right.
Let us be here. But unfortunately, that's not the case.
Yeah.
So like we take a lot of these things for granted, and it's really interesting going based off of your point, because they now are essentially like a service country, meaning like for people that come and visit. Like that's mainly like there's people always trying to get money. Like there's free parking spots, but there'll be dudes there like trying to line up your car for you or whatever, and then expect a tip and like stuff like that. Like just they're a service. And even like at the gas station, this is very like 1960s. But when you go up to the gas station, if you get out and pump your own car, it's like extremely disrespectful, like because that is someone's livelihood. Like that's how they make money, is by being there in service.
It's like going to a restaurant and going to get your food in the back yourself, right? Like, dude, there's a waitress. It's interesting because you do have the whole thought, and I brought it up before, where I'd love to live in the middle of nowhere, live off the land, and how we do take things, certain things for granted. But the other thing is that there's a ton of work that gets poured into it. So it's really easy to say that, but you have to be, ready that if you drop the average person that is saying that these days, and be like, oh, I'd love to live in the middle of nowhere and live out the land. It's like, dude, you can't even you can't make it through a day.
The stories I have, I mean, like real quick, just one thing. There's this guy in the village. He would be up, I'm talking like 4 a.m. out in the field, and he would be there all day. Yeah. And he wouldn't go to sleep till like 11, 12 o'clock.
Right.
Like, and he was an older guy, but that was like the purpose of his life, is to make sure that there's food on the table, that the plants and the agriculture is good, the land is kept.
Yeah. I want to bring this a little down to earth a bit, because I feel like, it's great to have a homestead, but to your point, it does take a lot of work, So like, how can we make this more practical for our viewers? And I think that what we're talking about at the heart is like the being able to grow your own food or living off the land it's a holistic way of eating and taking care of your health, right? Because I think what we're talking about here is, right, the more natural forms of food and nutrients versus like the process. And so for all of our viewers, it's something important to keep in mind of like eating less processed foods, eating a 1 or 2 ingredient food rather than a eat an apple. That is just an apple versus McDonald's burger, which has 100 ingredients in just the bun alone, you know?
Yeah.
I think that even doctors nowadays, you have people that were getting, and we talk about cancer, we talk about diabetes. Another big thing is autoimmune disorder. Okay. Or
that's huge.
Disease. And one of the reasons that they're saying why people are getting these diseases or something like autoimmune disease is because of the chemicals that we ate, or even what our parents started eating when they were having us, when this stuff started really getting introduced to the public, stuff like seed oils. I mean, you can't go anywhere online without seeing something about seed oils these days, and praise God, because it's seed oils are a bad thing, and if you haven't heard about it yet, you're gonna, especially with Kennedy involved and what he's bringing to the light with all these chemicals, and really feeding into that thought of cleaning up the diet. And it's interesting because you're cleaning up the diet, you're going back to what we were doing before. So the autoimmune disease, it was brought up with a couple things that made it big. Jordan Peterson and his daughter, I think Kayla Peterson, have autoimmune disease. They were put on a diet, and what doctors do is that they'll put you, they notice it was from food, and they'll put you through an elimination diet, and they'll start taking foods out of your diet to see if the effects are starting to lessen from the autoimmune disorder. I know his daughter herself had her hip replaced, and I think it was her ankle replaced. Forgive me if I'm wrong on that, but and Jordan Peterson had his own, just plethora of health problems as well. And he mentioned, he's like, I go to my doctor and I'm eating, basically left was meat and vegetables. And she's like, okay, well, and he's like, I'm still having issues, less, but I'm still having issues. And she's like, well, why don't you take out the vegetables? He's like, are you kidding me? I'm eating like organic broccoli, and it's like fresh stuff, and cucumber that's really good for you. And she's like, try just the meat. Now, there's a couple things behind that. And one of it is because the list of things that are in meat is one ingredient, right? It is meat, and it's not sprayed. It's not that it's not screwed with, but it's less screwed with depending on your source that you're getting it from. And that's where you kind of had the idea between that. And then back in the day, they had a diet called Atkins diet, where they did source it. It wasn't because it was a one ingredient thing, but they noticed that people were losing weight, and their effects of any illnesses were getting less on the Atkins. And they're saying the same thing, and it's similar to keto or carnivore. And we could touch base with that another day, but it'd be interesting to dive into animal-based and carnivore, which I actually, I started on too. And we don't have a ton of time for me to start going down that rabbit hole, cause it is a deep hole. And I could go on forever about that.
All you need to know is meat.
Yeah. I mean, but there's animal-based, and then you have, where you are incorporating stuff like fruit. But even heavy on fruit, my stomach will start acting up because it still does contain sugar. And when you take sugar out completely out of the diet, they even say that it helps keep from things like cancer, and obviously high blood pressure leads to diabetes and all that. But that's where it's coming from, is processed sugar and your carbohydrates. There's someone online,
starches as well, like sugar's hiding as other things.
Right.
It's crazy.
Right. And they actually say that, man, a bowl of oatmeal skyrockets your blood sugar even more than a bowl of ice cream.
Oh man, have you guys looked at the insulin? The carbohydrate count in a bowl of oatmeal is insane.
Right.
It's up for sure, upwards of 30 grams.
Really quick, guys, we just want to make sure that we put the disclaimer out that we are not professionals, but we are basing a lot of what we're talking about just on our own experiences, our own roads behind a lot of the supplements that we're talking about. But it's important that you do talk to your dietitian or talk to an actual medical professional about the things that are discussed on the podcast today. Thanks, guys. Even with the oatmeal, they've been preaching for years, even with the food pyramid, that oatmeal is super heart healthy.
Yeah.
And you're like, Actually, that food pyramid should have been flipped upside down.
And have you looked at that food pyramid? You see bread down there.
Right,
you
exactly.
see wheat, all these other things.
Right.
And it's saying or insinuating that should be the biggest part of your diet.
Right.
Where you get
That's
a lot of
bizarre.
their calories in the day. No, that is crazy.
Yeah.
Super crazy. It's like they're literally telling you, stuff yourself with all these hidden sugars and kill yourself.
Now, how we fatten cattle up, right?
Yes, for the last 90 days of their life, they're literally stuffed with starches for
some depending on where the cattle's coming from for their entire life.
Yeah, okay? So that's super big. Not just going carnivore, but even the quality of the meat is super huge. Right. I want to talk really quick about you said after you went through that detox phase and it was bad, that you said you felt maybe the best that you potentially have ever felt on food.
Yeah.
So what I think kind of happened to you is something that I started to look into myself. I never went to the doctor or anything and looked at my gut closely, but I always felt like there was something with my stomach and I just never knew what it was and always kind of looked. So I started to look into probiotics, prebiotics, and feeding gut microbiome. Everybody has germs in their stomach, gut microbiome. Most people go their whole lives. Yeah, bacteria. Yeah. Most people go their whole lives without intentionally feeding it. So unintentionally, right? Like we eat yogurt, sure, we eat cheese. Maybe once or twice, you'll try apple cider vinegar or something, but intentionally feeding it and giving it something so that it can be powerful. So there's two things, right? So gut microbiome, for you to have a healthy stomach, you want the microbiome to be diverse. You also want it to be strong. So almost like a potency. Think about it. A good way to do it naturally is by getting food that is organic or grown straight out of the ground, fresh, untampered with
and
food.
Fermented.
Yes. To get this diverse microbiome, natural dirt, like untampered with, good rich soil, has a lot of that in it. So when things are grown in that, obviously that comes out into the plant or the animal that was eating that stuff, and then you get fat from that stuff. Another way to strengthen it, obviously, is to, without supplements, if you're looking into probiotic, which is what that microbiome will eat to get strengthened, you also want to give it something, a prebiotic, which is what the probiotic eats to get strengthened as well. So it's kind of a whole thing, and I believe you got a lot of that by the natural food. It was just being grown, and rather than it being sprayed with all these pesticides, XYZ, and people manually putting in the nutrients and the stuff. Your stuff was already growing in it, and it's rich. And even with that, if you look at it, stuff that's grown organically, it, because of the diversity in the soil and all of that, it tastes better. It even has more flavor. Like the carrot is not just a carrot. It's, the cucumber is not just a cucumber. It's, there's a reason why you pay a little bit more for this stuff.
Yeah. There's two things you said there that I actually kind of want to ask you about, but also kind of go into is number one, you mentioned how you get these things from natural sources, right? So number one is why is it that they're spraying all these things besides the obvious, they'll grow more, why is it that they're spraying all these things? But then secondly, besides the natural, what are some ways, certain supplements and stuff that you can take that will enhance those parts?
So this is a thing, because I was going to touch on that right after Mike was kind of talking about this too, is that you shouldn't need to take a probiotic, in my opinion. That's my opinion. You shouldn't need to take a supplement for that. You should get everything from your food. Okay.
Yeah.
That should be, dude, our ancestors didn't have probiotics.
No, well, I mean, I agree.
They didn't have supplements.
But, okay, so thinking
the quality of their soil was better back then, though, so they were also getting more nutrients,
I don't think that is completely unavailable these days. I think we just have to really, and the research is out there, to really pick the right foods. You know?
And I mean, and it is a bit of a reach. You do got to push yourself. Sure, you got to get past the price tag one, but if that is an area where that is an issue, right? So I'm thinking in a person, the average Joe, just starting to look into this stuff. You're still eating. I mean, now to buy the organic foods and the organic, meat, vegetables, XYZ, the price tag is obviously different. And if you're not able to do that, that's why I'm a big fan of the probiotics and the prebiotics. However, there's ways to get it, good ways to get it. I mean, I try to eat the cheeses. Aged cheeses is a good way to get, to incorporate that stuff. I do apple cider vinegar. Not exactly eating pills or anything like that, looking for it, but yeah, I mean, you should be getting it dietarily, intentionally, through specific things like, you can do the apple cider vinegar, you can do those aged cheeses, you can do the kefir and all those stuff.
Things that you're saying are just bonuses though to your health.
The supplements you're saying?
Well, they're bonuses, but
that he's taking.
Yeah. They're bonuses, but man, dude, honestly, they're things that I think help you become a better version of you. Improving your gut health is, that's only going to really do you better. And most people, like I said, can go their whole life without feeding these things or, properly taking care of their gut.
Right.
You drink kombucha?
I do. It's funky, but you know what? Even still,
that's how you say it.
He put an
accent with
kombucha.
There's still sugar in that. So I was, with the attempt of keeping those sugar levels low and your intake on that,
Well, you know what's so interesting about all this? I'm reminded because unfortunately, I have a cat and he just had some issues where I had to take him to the vet, and it reminded me that like there are certain people out there that will feed their animals like these very specific diets, like to make sure that they're in the best shape that they can be. They're not experiencing any issues, anything like that. And some of them, like, they're pretty bougie, like full on, like crazy amounts of food. But then you look at themselves, right? You look at like what they eat for themselves, not the animal, but them. And it's just junk. And like, it makes you kind of think like why is that? Like, why is it that you would feed like your own animal all like the best things, but then when it comes to yourself, you're so careless with it?
I think, so I have a dog that's super sensitive and I feed her what I think, doing research, some quality food. I also think I eat good myself. But what I think it is, since dogs are more sensitive to a lot of things, or animals in general, you see the response faster, right? So if the dog is allergic, in my case, she started losing hair, growing bumps. But I also was a guy that I used to do bag of hot chips in Arizona, and not think twice about it and slam it, and then probably go get no lie, and then probably go get another bag of chips like some point later in the day. Yeah. And I think because our tolerance to things like that and being able to beat ourselves up and still feel normal because it's not brought to the forefront. I think quickly. I think we kind of push those things.
That's real dangerous, though.
Dude. I mean, there's people that go, years, their whole life eating McDonald's, and they feel they don't. And it doesn't occur to them that they're little by little like messing themselves up.
Bro, I used to eat McDonald's 3 times a day, like at one point.
No, I believe it because there's
as a kid, it was insane.
I believe
like breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah,
it was wild.
And then
the McDonald's diet.
I think one of the other things too that I think we're noticing is that so we have the sprayed food, we have the food pyramid, which was clearly upside down.
Crazy.
We have down to even how we do our eggs too. And you say, okay, well, they're cage-free eggs. That means the chickens are running around in a house then, and they're just pooping on each other, and they're still eating the same junk, but they say cage-free in the package, so of course they got to be good, right? Yeah. Then you have pasture-raised, and pasture-raised is maybe a better quality egg because the chickens are out there, and they say pasture-raised, and they're out there in the pasture, and they're grazing on grubs and shrubs and sitting there pecking at the soil and all that. So that should be your better egg. Okay. But you're still left with, and I posted something the other day, left with one of my favorite companies, and I'm not going to say their name, but then they're exposed for giving their chickens, certain chemicals and certain feed that affects the color of the egg. So the primary thing is greed. Okay. At a certain point, you have, just like we spray our vegetables, we spray our fruits, spray our crops so less bugs get to them, because then if the bugs aren't eating them, then there is more available. Okay. Yeah. Now you can say it's for more sinister reasons and the government had a piece in it and stuff like that. And who knows, maybe that is the case. Right. But without getting, and everything's political, but without getting down that rabbit hole, just for that simply fact that a lot of these companies is greed.
Yeah.
Okay? Just with the eggs, and now also with the milk. Right. We started pasteurizing our milk because a couple people got sick. But if you really look at the studies, the people that got sick off of raw milk was not to the extent that they're saying and making a big deal. What it was, and I think it was, it was one of those huge corporations that actually made the machine to pasteurize the milk, which basically you're heating it above, I think it's 160, but you're cooking the nutrients out of the milk, which defeats the purpose of the milk. So then what you got to do is add in back the flavor, which is part of what's exiting with the nutrients. So now you're adding sugar. You have to add vitamin D. Vitamin D milk is only vitamin D milk because you added vitamin D to the milk. But raw milk, raw cheeses, raw butter, those were things that were made that were given to us by God to build our immune system up. Now, people need to be clean about it, just like anything else. You do have outbreaks with E. coli, and it's because food is not handled well at the source, wherever the company is that's pulling it in.
Right.
Yeah. So if I have a farmer, now if I have a trusted farmer, okay, now I've been drinking raw milk for 3 years. Okay. It was from the Amish. I'm not going to name the store, but it's from the Amish. And I tried a little bit at first, never got sick off of it once. Okay.
That's good.
And I have actually felt, and I've gotten raw cream, raw butter, raw cheese, and any chance that I can get, I'll grab some of that. And I've noticed that since I started doing that, it's cut my sickness significantly in half from what it was before throughout an entire year.
You're getting more of the complete form of the vitamin.
Right.
A lot of times, or one thing that I was really impressed when I was like researching health is that these vitamins have components to them. It's not just like one molecule, but a complex. It's like a bundle package. And so when you are taking in those natural, more organic forms of foods and things, it allows you to get more nutrition. And also you are building up a tolerance to just be able to handle all of this food. Because one thing that when you were talking about like the pasteurized milk, and over time ingesting all of that will make you intolerant. I think that's kind of this thing that I see more and more of today, but people becoming increasingly like they can't have dairy products. There's a lactose intolerance, and it's because you've ingested processed foods for so long it is deteriorated your gut microbiome. There's bacteria that will handle lactic acid, and you kind of become intolerant from that,
Right.
And that's when we're talking about supplements, like there's even you have to do research with that. Like we're talking about sourcing food, but even sourcing supplements, there's synthetic and organic versions of supplements. And it's kind of crazy, but the synthetic versions are, of course, cheaper. They're like more affordable options, but your body doesn't absorb the vitamin or the mineral as well. The supplement, it's called bioavailability. So there's less bioavailability when you're using a synthetic versus an organic version of a supplement. And one quick example I want to share just to back this up is I started supplementing with vitamin B12. Vitamin B12, I get the organic version of it, but it's a little scientific. I honestly had to like reread because when I was learning about it, it was just too much. But the scientific name for vitamin B12 is called cobalamin. And there's two forms of it, methylcobalamin and cyanocobalamin. Cyanocobalamin is the fake version. That's the synthetic version. Methylcobalamin comes naturally. It's like an extract from a fruit or wherever they sourced it from. But cyanocobalamin is actually made with cyanide. And it's actually the most common version of vitamin B12 that you'll see on the shelf.
That's in other supplements too.
Yeah.
Right?
That's crazy.
So I've read that.
Cyanocobalamin, it's using poison cyanide
Oh my gosh.
because the cyanide helps to stabilize the synthetic molecule. So it's like people don't know that. They're just thinking like, do I want the $12 vitamin B12 or do I want the $36 vitamin B12? And they're like, of course I'm gonna go with the $12, the cheaper one.
I'm definitely victim to that. I'll tell you that right now.
One of the things that I saw when I switched up my diet is, for instance, what's in red meat. Mm-hmm. Right. And red meat to me, if someone says, okay, like you're alone, trapped in an island, what food would you bring? I said, hands down beef. But beef has every single thing you need. I was taking B12 supplement at 1.2 and apparently the cheaper version after listening to what Edgar's saying. But what I did see was that in red meat, you have all your B vitamins. You do not need to supplement if I'm eating, and 85% of my diet is red meat. So when I stopped, when I started eating the way that I was, and you can get everything that you can from red meat. You cannot get everything that your body needs from vegetables and fruit.
Right.
Okay? And we even found traces of vitamin C in beef too.
The phytonutrients, you can find phytonutrients in meat. Yes.
Minerals, that's a huge thing too. We should be getting that from salt. But really the bottom line is that you shouldn't just be blindly taking supplements anyway.
Yeah.
What you should do if you can, and they can be pretty expensive, but getting a blood test, and a lot of people will get a blood test, but when something goes wrong.
Yeah.
And Mike, you can talk into this too, but Mike actually had to go, you're feeling a little bit vertigo almost, right? And so you had to get a blood test for that reason.
So, I changed up my diet to something, I went full on carnivore for a while. I'm currently on what I consider is a very low carb diet, primarily eating meat. However, I do incorporate carbs into my diet, but strategically, things like fruit. I don't eat bread. I don't eat all these other things. Anyways, I would just like what Josiah was saying, I was experiencing some vertigo for a while. It was lingering for. I don't know if you.
I remember that.
Yeah, you kind of remember that. So in my investigation of trying to figure out what it was.
What are the symptoms of vertigo?
Just feeling like the room can be spinning, sensations of like movement when you're not moving. When you go to lay down, kind of feel like the room is spinning a little bit.
Dizziness.
Yeah, dizziness.
Unstable.
Yeah, and it's not all the time. It kind of can come and go. I mean, it's different for everybody.
Would you feel it when you would stand up instantly?
So yeah, I would feel it when I stand up, but here's the thing, right? Because it's like it was a mixture of vertigo / head rush sometimes. So I do a lot of push-ups. That's part of like my warm-up. Every time I go to the gym, I do 100 push-ups. That's part of it. So getting up quickly off of that, it would be the head rush plus the mixture of that. You almost had to grab something for a moment.
Yeah.
But even in the exploration of vertigo, real quick, back on the blood work thing. So I couldn't figure out what it was. You're watching YouTube videos, but you can only get so far. And then you're like, okay, maybe I should go talk to a professional about this. And I got blood work done. And I would say since I changed my diet, thankfully, looking at everything, there wasn't anything that I was deficient in, which, praise God, I was actually super, super pleased to hear about. I didn't think I got an answer too much from the doctor. The blood work didn't show anything that was alarming or anything like that, just internal. I started to do research. So in my investigation on vertigo and what could be the causes of it, I found that calcium buildup in certain areas you can lead to this sensation of vertigo and moving and whatnot. So I started taking vitamin D. This is part of it. Along with vitamin D, I started taking vitamin K. So vitamin D, it can promote the body to start creating calcium. But vitamin K2, more specifically, is what's known as like a transporter vitamin. So this moves calcium to where it needs to be. For example, the bones, teeth. You don't want it drifting in cyberspace in the body. So what happened to me and what I think happened, because it's a little hard to tell. The doctors couldn't even tell. Calcium can build up in the ear canal, and it's kind of moving up and down like this. These calcium crystals, if they're floating in the middle where they're not supposed to be, it creates a sensation of you being off balance.
Wow.
So taking vitamin D3 along with K2, helping that move to where it needs to be, clearing out the ear canals. And, you know, I've been taking it for a couple months, and dude, I think it...
Have you had vertigo since?
Yeah, no. So wow. Praise God.
That's interesting.
Wow. Now, awesome. Okay. This was a long time of taking it, and it probably was over the course of 6 to 7 months of taking it. So again, these things don't happen overnight, right? So I will say, if you're a person that you don't take new supplements and you're curious on, like, you know, where do I start? I will discourage you from taking a multivitamin, only because one, it's a mashup of all these different supplements and all these different vitamins. It could, and kind of like
synthetics.
Yes, a lot. So a lot of times these multivitamins are loaded up with synthetics and at different qualities,
and different dyes that are in there.
You could potentially be taking things that you don't even need. So, or even vegetable oil in some of these.
Right. Yeah. That's actually more prominent.
So even down to what the pill is made out, like the capsule what binds these vitamins together. So I would say, you know, reading the Carfax on the back of a bottle is super big. It not only for food or anything like that. Just because it says it's healthy, don't take the label. The label's word. You really got to read the Carfax on this stuff.
Wow. Well, you don't. This is the thing, is that even with, you know, you guys even brought up multivitamin. You know, you're consuming, if you're not deficient in something, but you keep on taking it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why it would be important for you to do that. But you're being counterproductive.
Oh yeah.
You know, like if I'm gonna, like, okay, well, I want to really clean up my diet. I want to watch what I eat, and I'm gonna take vitamins. It's like, but you don't need those vitamins.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't need them, then, you know, if you're out in the sun all the time, right, and you're getting a fair amount of vitamin D, it's during the summer, you can lean up, but during the winter, maybe start loading up on the vitamin D. You know, that's one thing I know. One of the vitamins that we are a little more deficient in as a nation, and with that, along with magnesium. Magnesium is something that I will blindly take, you know, because I know that we don't have it in our foods like we should be. You know? A lot of that is taken from, you know, seafood, for instance, you know, because the sea holds a bunch of minerals. You can get a significant amount of magnesium, but also from sea salt, for instance. So I might supplement with a magnesium complex, and there's several different forms of magnesium, but also if I'm taking something in like Celtic sea salt, you know, Barbara O'Neill, and you know, we'll pull her up too at some point, but she's totally a health nut and very holistic, and really hits on. She loves the Lord. Always quotes the Bible on some of her stuff too. So I think she's fully against the pharmaceutical company, much like we might be. But she mentions too, one of the ways to stay hydrated. I've been doing this for almost 2 years now, where I used to kind of mix salt in with my water, and that was a form of energy, and then also keep me hydrated. The reason why it was energy was because I was hydrated. I think when we're too tired, we don't realize, like, dude, I need to hydrate. But what she mentioned too was that, okay, if you are just drinking water and then you're just peeing it out, right? Or your ankles just start swelling. That's another way people hold water, but they're not retaining it and it's not getting into the cell. Said, take some like Celtic sea salt, or you got a company like Redmond's real salt, right? Like that's packed full of 70, you know, over 70 minerals. Celtic sea salt, I think it measures, and I could be wrong, but something like 84 different types of minerals, several different compounds of magnesium, right? And if you take that, you put it on your tongue, you let it dissolve, that magnesium is able to get in the cell. And then when you drink water after that, the magnesium pulls the water into the cell, and then you stay hydrated. So before, I'd be drinking, you know, gallons of water a day, but what essentially I'm doing is I'm actually rinsing and clearing out my body of the nutrients that's in my body. So you're basically flushing your system. It's not just bacteria, but that's like crazy. Nothing is surviving in there. That means any vitamins that you're taking in, you're peeing that out. Any minerals, you're peeing that out. And you're actually just cleaning your body out of everything, even good bacteria.
You kind of turn into like a revolving door, like things just come and go.
Exactly.
But real quick, before we move too far, the reason why I said, you know, I discouraged the multivitamin, But what I do encourage people to do, if you're not the type to want to get up and go get the blood work done, I would literally go grab a piece of paper, write down everything that you feel that you want to improve on. Right. So or things that you realize are an issue.
Anyways.
Yeah. I mean, you want to get 1% better every day. So dude, self-analyzing, I'm a big supporter of that. But no, things you want to improve on. If you want to improve on cognitive focus, if you want to improve on sleep, or if you have an issue with back pain, look for the vitamins that help with these areas and start there. Kind of like what you said, it's fair. We live in Chicago. The sun, we deal with more winter than we do summer, so we're not getting that much exposure to light. If you're the type of person that you live in a city similar to Chicago, or you work in a place where you're just behind a desk, you're inside, you're not by a window, you're staring at a computer all day, it's fair to assume you might be vitamin D deficient. You know what I mean? Yeah. But not only that, taking the supplements that help that dissolve. Again, I recommend you eating a better diet and getting your nutrition through this way. But if you're a person, again, like that, you need to get that middle ground, or you need the supplement for assistance. This is the way we recommend.
That's great, Mike. I think one of the things too, and this is a good segue into this, is how do I know that, and I think most of us have come to this that do take supplements or have supplemented before, but because there are corrupt companies out there and there are people that just want to make a buck, how do I know that what I'm getting is actually what it is? Whether you see the supplement, it's like, okay, that's a white powder. Why isn't it? How do I know it's not just baking soda in this? So it's one thing I was actually doing research on, and there is there's a number of different ways that you can actually check on that. But one of where the top brands that do, and you can be counted on, is looking for third-party testing. Okay, that third-party testing is checking if the supplement is certified by an independent organization, and common certifications include NSF International, US Pharmacopoeia or USP, Consumer Lab, Informed Sport. These certifications verify that the product contains the ingredients listed on the label and is free from harmful contaminants. Nice. So you can double check on that. Another thing you do is research the manufacturer that's selling it too. Yeah. If it leads back and all of a sudden you go to a page that's just in Chinese, there might be nothing against the Chinese, but I am against their government, and sometimes they like throwing things overseas to us that we shouldn't be buying. And it's just
made in China.
Josh has bought a few things offline that were from China, and we've seen the quality of those things. So
Temu.
Temu. So that's another. Listen, you're not the only person that's falling for a shirt from Temu. Yeah, bro. Dude, you're like, it's lasting me,
those sandals actually from Temu lasted me for a while.
Running, get in where you fit in,
listen,
dude.
Teach their own. Teach their own. But I'm giving Josh a little bit of a hard time sometimes.
Josh, do you take supplements?
I don't really take like B12 and all that stuff. But I take protein. Or creatine. That's what
creatine?
Creatine's a good one too.
I take creatine and protein. I didn't really investigate too much on the different types of protein. Like just recently, I think a couple months ago about a couple months ago, I went to Josiah's place and I took a picture of his protein powder. And because it was like grass fed, and I was like, oh snap, I didn't even know this stuff existed, And
well, that one's a little. That was that's Paul Saladino, and it had like desiccated organs in it, and had like dried out fruit in it.
That's one that totally
so
fits
like
you.
Date, and that's only if like, dude, I didn't eat that day, and I gotta eat something.
Bizarre meat protein.
Yeah,
but that's still a good protein, though. It's like you know what I'm saying. Like, animal
protein Yeah.
No, it's just better quality.
Yes. I mean, you put me onto that, change of mind.
Well, it's better than whey. Now there's a science behind whey too, and whey's not horrible, but
has a lot of sugar though.
I mean there's the protein. And that brings it to as far as quality check too, examining the label, looking for clear and specific labeling on the label. We do that with foods too. Like we turn the product around once in a while. I'll walk through a store and I'll look at something, and if the first ingredient is like safflower oil, I'm like, all right, I'll put that right back up on the shelf. I'm not getting something that has, and research what it says. If you can't pronounce the name in your supplement, or you can't pronounce the name in the food, there might be an issue there. You know what I'm saying? Like, and we just blindly trusted the people that are making it. That's a huge issue too. But verifying the ingredients, you can actually do that on, databases like the Nutritional Institutes of Health Dietary Supplement Label database, or examine.com. That's another website that you can cross-examine certain supplements for too.
Interesting.
Yeah. There's dietary supplement alerts and safety information page that's found with the FDA as well. And then, you could also consult a professional. There's registered dietitians out there that might know a little bit into that too. So that's something that you can look for.
That's good
too. But that does, you bring up creatine. Creatine is something that I didn't take until just recently. I tend to have used myself as a guinea pig over the years and tried different supplements. But there's a couple that we're going to talk about a little bit today, and not spend a ton of time on, but just, these are ones that I found interesting, but also beneficial. Creatine itself, which is also creatine, is found in meat, and especially red meat, primarily red meat. So I'm like, listen, if my diet is all red meat, why do I need creatine, right? And then I kind of started reading more on creatine. I took it in my 20s, as a kid in the gym and stuff like that, and messing around with it then. But I remember back then I kind of felt bloated off of it. And I remember getting a little bit hungry on it. So I'm like, let me try it again, So now hitting the age I'm at now, trying creatine, both of those have stirred up again.
Interesting.
But this also, I've been taking it for almost 2 months now. But creatine is also the most researched supplement out there. That is top of the list, and it's literally it's super safe because it is kind of a natural food or natural supplement. But also they've come a little bit of ways with creatine too. I know, Mike, I'm a big believer in creatine. I myself have been taking it for a little over 3 years. I actually have none of those side effects, but I know that's different. That's circumstantial. That's different from person to person. I like it. The recovery aspect, it also helps with cognitive focus. So creatine, it helps the muscle retain water, or it helps the body retain water in the place that you want, in the muscle. Different from carbohydrate, right? Where it's a sugar attached to a water molecule and you get fluffy. This is making you big in the places you want it. I mean, that's part of it, But I love creatine. I haven't actually had any of those side effects. I mean, check me out. I got a bunch of hair up here. So there is, and to Mike's note, there's been a really shoddy study that was done that they claimed that there was maybe possible hair loss. That's going around the internet.
I just pulled that off as a joke, but there is no official.
There's nothing that is set in stone, and if it's researched that much, there's not enough information for that either. And obviously Mike's been on it for a little while, and I could just have great genetics. On the other hand, I got a widow's peak rocking, so I might be receding, but that could just because of the Irish curse along with the gray. It's the most researched and proven effective for improving strength, which I did see a little bit of in the weight room. And the claim is muscle mass as well. overall exercise performance with creatine.
Mm-hmm.
So, people have, claimed to see that, and people have been on it for years.
Yeah.
That's it. It's funny because they're a lot of guys will, especially the guys that are, juicing or they call it on gear, and then the joke is, dude, you're on gear. And they're like, no, I just take creatine. It's like, all right, dude, like,
you're not natty.
Yeah.
You ain't natty, dude.
Yeah.
No, it's just creatine.
No
Dude, you
one
look like a
thinks anyone's
freaking
natty
international
nowadays.
truck, and you're telling me that's creatine?
Yeah.
So listen, to each their own. So I'm not going to sit there and dog guys that use that, or use gear, but creatine is a good place to start. Outside of myself and my experiences with it, feeling a little bit bloated, there is breakdown of where they call it. It's almost like a finer creatine too, because one of the reasons they said that it doesn't dissolve well enough in your stomach, and that could be what the possible bloating is too.
And honestly, I'm sure you've noticed it too when you put it in a glass of water. You can stir it up for, dude, you can go and stir, and it'll still be in the same form. It actually, the acid in your stomach is what can break it down. So it's not going to stay in sand as a sand in your stomach. When you take this.
So that's actually kind of a question I have, because I'm actually taking creatine as well, but I personally, I haven't really felt any side effects.
Nice.
But I also haven't really seen any effects at all. Like, I haven't felt.
Well, you got to work out.
So
with
no,
it.
yeah,
So,
So that's one.
No.
No, but muscle is one of the hardest things to grow. It's easier to gain weight and get fluffy than to slim down and, develop muscle. So I will say, why take creatine if you can eat meat and, your body can make it. So I was looking into this a little bit. So for every 1 to 2 pounds of meat that you eat, your body creates 1 gram of creatine. So think about it. Like if you look at a pound of meat is a lot, and on average, to meet the minimum requirement for your body to reach to achieve true benefit from it, you would have to have. And now this is subjective, but on average about 5 grams a day. However, you really want to kind of look at your body weight and kind of assess it based off of that and how active you are, how much water you're drinking. There's a lot of other factors that should go into it. But if you read the label on the back of a bottle of creatine, it'll recommend 5 grams a day. And even in the beginning, right? So creatine is something that your body stores, but it depletes its storage within about 24 hours. So they recommend you take this every day. So being that you take it every day, real quick, I'll just say this. I myself, there's different ways to go about it. I'm sure we all potentially have heard of a loading phase and a loading period. I mean, dude, you're taking this every day. To be honest, I don't think you need to load because you're going to be taking it every day. So,
that's kind of the question I even had too, is like, if you're being consistent with it, you're going to the gym, but you're still not necessarily seeing so many results. There's multiple different types of creatine.
Right.
And like, for me, I'm like, all right, I'm just a big money saver. And going back to even like the B12 thing, like I've fallen victim to, oh yeah, well, this one's definitely cheaper. Why wouldn't I go for this?
Yeah.
So like, this is more a genuine question. Is there like, what is the main difference between like a cheap creatine versus like, more expensive one? And like, does it actually affect too much? Like,
yeah,
that's
we may
a good
be
question.
Kind of touching on the same. Josiah, I know you wanted to.
I mean, there's the research I did around, underneath that is so micronized creatine monohydrate.
Yes.
Okay, that is better for solubility. So it's more soluble. Your body takes absorption, digestion. It's a little bit better. The more popular one might be creatine, or at least was hydrochloride. So that's one that might be popular.
And I'll have to check the one I have, because I just have like a cheap one.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I just want to point out really quick, like with creatine, with even the vitamins and mineral supplements, for the most part, it really is about your body's ability to absorb it. That's at least when it comes to like synthetic and organic vitamins. Like even with the B12 example I've mentioned, you can still receive some of the benefits from the synthetic form, but your body will absorb that less than the other form.
Than the more natural.
And I think even a little bit back on what I was saying, you could potentially even be needing a little bit more creatine based off of the way your body's running, your weight. I don't know how much you weigh and, all that. And we could even kind of go over that, like potentially offline and talk about it. But I would even, take a look at that. You potentially may even need a little bit more.
Yeah, we'll see.
It doesn't hurt to like do, there's dietitians you can see, and I'd recommend anyone out there to see a dietitian to maybe help them with this. These are opinions from experiences that we're basing on ourselves and using ourselves as guinea pigs, and then just stuff that we've read as well. So wouldn't call that actual professionals ourselves, just based upon us doing those studies.
Just experience.
You do have different creatines that are out there, but you doing your own research out there and kind of figuring that out. That's important. And you owe it to yourself for that too.
For sure.
One of the things that obviously I mentioned as far as one of the side effects for some people is hunger, right? Now, like I tend to
You're saying losing hunger or like getting hungry?
You get hungry.
I'm always hungry.
That's something.
I think maybe I have that then, because I'm like
It's your metabolism.
Four meals a day is like what I'm at.
That's part of it. And one of the things that it does, obviously do, but it holds water in your system, right? That's a huge part of it. And if you feel like maybe slightly less pain or less burn, from my experience, at least is my opinion on it, that it is because your muscles are holding more water. It's retaining more. So it almost works like a buffer. That's the way I look at it. Very unscientific way of saying it, right? But one of the things that people don't do is drink water on creatine. You need to be drinking tons of water on creatine.
Wow.
And one of the reasons why I might be so hungry when I'm on it is because I'm actually not drinking enough water. I'm used to actually just drinking the normal consumption of water. And like I mentioned earlier, a little bit of salt on my tongue, and then I'll drink, 8 to 12 ounces, and then I'll go back to it. But you need to maintain good hydration throughout the day. And then I noticed just the other day, I'm like, man, I'm getting like a pounding headache from, day to day. It's not every single day, but once in a while, I'm like, what am I doing? I'm not hydrating. And especially if I'm taking creatine, you need to be definitely hydrating, and your system will hold that. And then also one of the benefits that I saw, again, Paul Saladino came out with his own line of creatine too. If you don't know Paul Saladino, he does Heart and Soil supplements, which are all like organ-based, and he's a big carnivore guy or animal-based guy. But he teamed up with another guy to put out creatine, his line of creatine. But what he did was actually add sea salt to it. And the reason they put a little bit of sea salt to it was to actually, for it to become more bioavailable to you. And actually your body is receiving it to you. So more soluble inside your stomach as well. So he found there's a connection there, so, obviously I take in a fair amount of salt too, but it wouldn't hurt to actually up your salt intake. The right salt though, not table salt.
Yeah, what if you put some salt in your protein shake? Like I put creatine, like I always put creatine in my protein shakes. So would it help if I put like some salt in there?
I would actually take a little bit of salt beforehand, and then, like I said, drop it on your tongue. Try that. I have actually put salt in my creatine shaker bottle too. I mix my creatine and collagen, and I don't know whether you're supposed to or not, but like I'll take collagen as well.
I had a protein that actually had collagen in it too.
Yeah.
I think it was bulletproof or something like that.
It could, like the stuff the Lineage brand that I showed you, it actually had collagen in it, which actually was funny because I pre-made a shake the night before, and I'm like, all right, tomorrow's gonna be like a wreck day. I'm not even gonna have time to eat, so I'm gonna pre-make the shake.
Yeah.
When I went to go grab it, it was like Jell-O. Like because of the collagen in it, it actually formed, and it formed the shape of the shaker bottle. So I'm like eating it with a spoon, and I'm like, man, and it had no flavor to it. It was like, it was like eating a cardboard box. But dude, I'm like chewing down. I'm basically eating a meal at this point anyway. It's like chew down my shake.
Wow.
Like, I don't want to waste this.
Oh my goodness.
So, but yeah, that's, just wanted a quick touch on creatine. So again, you want to talk to your nutritionist or dietitian, dig into creatine a little bit, but it is one of more of the safer supplements out there, and why it's so popular is because people have seen a little bit. Now I'm not saying like my bench went up 50 pounds after 2 months. I don't think it works like that. I think you might be able to get through a little more effort. Sometimes with creatine, things are a little bit easier as far as your workout goes. Maybe endurance might last a little bit longer in that as well. So,
would you recommend creatine now for men and women?
Actually, there is a study done for women. I put Ashley on it, and she's been taking it, but they actually say, and I have to dig into the study more, that it's actually better for women than it is men.
Oh, really?
Women actually can see more benefits, especially postmenopausal, from creatine as well. Like that's a huge thing. And nice. I'd have to read into that and maybe touch base another time.
I think I read something like that. And I think even age on top of that, older people benefit even more.
Right.
So an older woman.
Well, it's supposed to help with cognitive thinking as well too. So as you get older, obviously your mind starts, wandering. I'm sure there's plenty of times that I'll come across my day and I'm like, what's that word? What am I thinking of? Yeah. And I think that helps too. And we might dive into that a little bit. We're going to be doing a little bit more on other supplements such as nootropics too. Yeah. I've done a lot of search on nootropics, taken different types of nootropics and memory enhancers. Focus. Yeah. Not that we're saying any brand names here, but I suppose I've said a few myself. But that goes into another supplement that I actually has been on and take quite often, and that is called Rhodiola rosa, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. That is a Arctic root, golden root, or rose root, also called king's crown. It's a flowering herb that grows in cold, high altitude regions of Europe and Asia. It actually has a long history of medicinal use in Russia, Scandinavia, and other parts of Europe. I saw a while ago, and we're going to play a clip too, that Andrew Huberman was talking about it and how it's actually helped him with endurance, energy. And I started taking it myself, and I started seeing a lot of benefits, mostly during my workout, but also throughout my day. I start my day with a really heavy workout, and a lot of times I'll go to town. But what that does is it actually takes off from the brain. People don't realize that if you start a workout and you kill it in the morning, I kind of feel like an idiot the rest of the day, and actually, because your brain's also a muscle, it actually takes away from cognitive thinking, memory, and even the energy that is normally put out that you use your brain with. And you got to think how often and how much energy your body takes to have your brain function the rest of the day.
Right.
If I don't work out that day, I'm like, yeah, I remember that, where I'm like, no, like I feel like totally like just mindless the rest of the day, with lack of other words that I'm filtering out. But we'll play this clip, and then we'll get back on my experiences with the supplement itself.
Rhodiola rosea?
Yeah, Rhodiola rosea's impressive supplement.
So please tell me more about this, because I have heard in my conversations with athletes over the years of people using this for various endurance purposes, altitude acclimation, but I don't know if any of that has any foundation.
Rhodiola rosea is a very interesting compound because it's an adaptogen in that it greatly reduces perceived effort and allows for greater power output and endurance output, as you pointed out a moment ago. But it does not do that by suppressing cortisol. So 200 milligrams of Rhodiola rosea prior to, say, a resistance training workout, you will notice you have more vigor. You can just go longer, and your perceived effort is much lower. And it's kind of striking.
What is it doing?
Now, this is interesting. It's kind of striking how after the workout, you don't feel as depleted. That perhaps the main reason I started taking it is I found I could train harder, but then I suffered quite a lot from a post-exercise dip in energy, especially if I ate big meal. I no longer experience that if I take Rhodiola rosea 30 to 60 minutes before workout. Right. The effects of it.
So Tony, we can pause it there, but basically what he's talking about, I took I think it was about a little over 200 milligrams, and you could try like different, if you're going to try, you could try different levels, whatever your body gets used to. It's pretty safe. Again, it's something natural, and they've, been using it other places, as I mentioned earlier in Europe. But what I did notice is that the days that I know that I'm like, okay, I had a rest day, or a maintenance day before, and I want to go in and kill it in the gym. Right. Then I'll take that also, and he'll talk about this, and we don't have time to play the whole video, but, and he'll talk about this, or it might've been another video that he was in talking about this, because there's a couple different videos that he actually has a discussion about this supplement. But what he goes on to say is that even especially mixing it with a little bit of caffeine, right? Like most of us will take caffeine. I'd be lying if I didn't take caffeine almost every single time I go to the gym. It helps, especially if I'm going ham in that workout, which I usually do, especially as a powerlifter. I want to get in as much as I can in as a short amount of time as I can too. I had noticed in a pretty significant way that I can actually push through almost another set, or almost sometimes even 5 more reps that I pushed it. And you can say, well, it's a placebo effect or whatever. There's been times I took it and I forgot that I actually took it. And I'm like, man, I'm killing it today. And then I have the bottle out of my account. I'm like, oh, that's right. So
even if it is a placebo, like you're getting the reps in.
Well, yeah, I mean, really, you can go all day about that. But it does help with that. And then later on, I come to the job and then I'm running around, the building, and I do maintenance in a building, and I'm running around doing that. And that does take some thinking as well, but also just the energy levels throughout the rest of my day too, and which is something he was talking about as well. And then it does last, I think he mentioned 4 hours, and I do feel that, that ongoing, which is one of the reasons I want to continue to kill it at my job at, for the next whatever hours during the day, during the morning.
Yeah, that's important, because there could be almost like a drop off after the gym. Like it's kind of give or take, because going to the gym, yes, it motivates you. It makes you like excited, like, wow, you get the testosterone flow and all that. But then like you just exerted so much energy, and then now you have to switch focus to a completely different thing going into like a work site, right?
Yeah.
And with that can be a huge detriment even on your work, even though you feel physically great and you're like, all right, I want to do this. You have the motivation.
Right.
Like the focus could be off.
Right.
Yeah. See, so this got me thinking about my schedule. So I have a bit of the reverse where I'm on work sites all day, and then after I try to make way to the gym. But mentally, I feel depleted, a little bit of spacey, harder to get into that zone,
You put all your effort and all your energy towards that workout, and then he talks about it, and it's separate from him discussing the supplement. But Andrew, you remember, obviously he's full of amazing information. He's a scientist, for crying out loud. So, but he does touch base on the effects of your workout and what that does to your brain, and the rest of the day using the energy towards your brain, or even cognitive thinking the rest of the day, and how that's actually affected him personally. And seen that in other studies as well.
Yeah, super interesting. Got me wanting to try it.
Yeah, so it's something safe, and he does mention it, but obviously, people at home, if you're gonna try this, look up the information. We're not professionals, but we've just gone through our experiences. It should have probably been a disclaimer that we'd said before all this. And as we're walking through some of this, it's got us pumped to talk about other things we've tried, other supplements as well, including I would love to touch base on caffeine. I brought that up, but also nootropics. That's something that I've tried, different ones. Alpha GPC is a pretty normal, and it's actually found in other nootropics that are out there too. But basically, my journey through nootropics, including stuff like lion's mane mushroom, which actually has the nootropics effect on it as well. But we're going to touch base on that, possibly in the next episode as well. But we wanted to wrap it up. It's a little bit lengthier episode, but a lot of stuff that we'd love to cover and keep on going in episodes to come. So, guys, I want to thank you for joining us again on Kingdom Mindset Podcast. We want to wish you a Merry Christmas from us to you.
Merry Christmas.
See you guys.
Merry Christmas.
Yay, yay.